Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. As usual, back to let you know some of the stories making the rounds right now as they concern the Super Eagles of Nigeria. So any moment from now, we'll be expecting Coach Chelle to release the provisional squad for the Super Eagles players that will be in line to make an appearance for the next campaign. Obviously in the FIFA World Cup qualifying series starting from next week. We have two games. You already know that against Benin Republic and then against Lesotho. These games are very important. We have to win these games to at least stand a chance to qualify into the playoffs. But if you take a look at what's happening right now, you see that a couple of countries have started releasing their lists. Talk about countries like uh, uh, Guinea. Guinea have actually released their list. A few hours ago, where the coach of the side announced a really strong squad for their game against Mozambique and then I think Sierra Leone. But the focus should be on the Super Eagles and Coach Eric Shaw. And right now, there seems to be some issues on ground that the coach is going to want to sort out. Especially when you talk about the injury worries here and there that we've had in the last couple of days. In the midfield areas, we've had a lot of issues recently. Onyedika uh, you know, pulled out of the match in midweek in Europe. And then a few days ago, we also saw Fisa Adele Bashiru being stretched out due to injury. So we have a few injury issues here and there, which obviously, creates a void for Kucherek Shell to try and fill in, going forward as it seeks to select this list. Talking about Onyedika, we've not really known the situation, because Club Brugge hasn't really talked much about it. It just happened recently, so we don't know the severity of the injury, whether it's actually, injured for real, or not. But Fisa Adele Bashiru, for sure, he has an injury, So Coach Eric Shaw is going to be faced with, the responsibility of filling this void. And when you talk about people that you can actually use to fill this void. You talk about a certain 20-year-old midfield maestro, who plays in the Serie A. Talking about Akin Samiro Ebenezer, is someone that has really caught the eyes a lot this season. I mean, he's been a fantastic player, even last season. Uh, when he was last two seasons from Inter Milan, then he was sent on loan. I think last season to play at Sampdoria, if I'm not mistaken. But this season he was also sent on loan to play at Pisa, and he's been very very fantastic this season. In fact, their last match was arguably the contender for the man of the match, if not that they lost that game 3 goals to 2 against a very strong Napoli side. But Akin Samiro bossed the midfield in that match. He was absolutely fantastic for a player of his age, just 20 years old. And again, that brings him into the conversation of, the potential replacement for one of these midfielders that will not be able to make it due to injury. And the report is that Kuchereksha is seriously considering bringing him in, and he values him, he rates him even as high as uh, Benjamin Frederick, who he recently discovered, for our central back. So it's very possible that Akin Samiro is going to finally get his breakthrough at the national team by getting his first call up, this time around because of these whole injury issues. But aside from that, Coach Eric still has a rich list of options, in the midfield to pick. We talk about Frank Onyeka, is very much in form. He actually played this weekend, in their game, where they won Man United, this afternoon. I think 3 goes to 1 or something like that. And then you talk about Uche Crisantos is very capable and is fit. Talk about Alassane Yusuf. So Coach Eric Sherman actually go back to calling Alassane Yusuf uh, from the MLS, to come fill that void. And then there's another man here, Joe Aribo, but his case is very different because he's not really had his period this season. In fact, he's not made any appearance so far in the championship with Southampton, and this is going to be something that will not work to his favor when you talk about people that Coach Eric could consider, because obviously I said it before, you have to be playing games for your clubs, and you have to be playing well, making impact in each match that you come in. So maybe Aribo gets to sit this one out again. And let me just give you what his coach has said as to why Aribo hasn't featured this season, because that has been a worry for not just the player but also for NFF and Nigerian journalists. And in the coach's defense as to why he hasn't really played Aribo, he said we've got 20, 23 or 24 players in the squad with three keepers, and every week we have to leave out six, which is huge. And Aribo missed almost a whole preseason. We are just working with him and try to get him back in when we feel the opportunity is right. But again, you have to balance everything and take everything into consideration. So that's what the coach has said. He's not really letting out too much information as to why this man hasn't really been featured. Just that he didn't play in the preseason. That's just the reason I'm saying in what he said. But we'll see what happens. Coach Eric Shell definitely has some big decisions to make. In terms of bringing this squad together and then uh, submitting it to NFF and then go further to chop it down and then release it. Hopefully, starting off this week that we're entering now, we should already start to see the list, make headlines as far as the players that we expect to be called up into the camp. One man again that could actually make this squad is Kelechi Iheanacho, because of how he has impressed in the last couple of days, with Celtic Football Club. We've seen him score a couple of goals, created a couple of assists in as little appearances for this side. So it's very interesting because Kujarik Share, I'm sure, is watching and is noticing the man's form. So we could very likely include him in the squad. And especially when you consider that, a couple of the strikers that we used in the last FIFA break, they kind of didn't stand up to the occasion. Talk about people like Cyril Dessas, fantastic, fantastic player, but he just didn't have his day, during the last call up. So obviously, we might see some rotation in the attacking area as well. Maybe Iheanacho gets the nod to be slot right in um, for that one. But wait and see what happens. Boniface and Umar Sadiq are also two strikers that are pushing to get back into the squad, with their recent performances. Boniface had shown, glimpses of picking up form here and there, since he switched from Leverkusen to Bremen. Unfortunately, this weekend they got trashed 4 goals to 0 by Bayern Munich on Friday night. Boniface actually scored in that match, but he was ruled off due to an offside call. But this, as I said, going to be interesting to see. Talk about Victor Boniface. He's also been in the news recently where he talked about the reason why he thinks that the players are not really delivering, at the national team. He says that it's not like Nigeria doesn't have the talent. It's not like we don't have the quality in our squad, but the issue is that there isn't enough time to actually train together, blend together, build that bond, build that cohesion together, and then start getting the result. That is the only reason for Boniface, because uh, he talks about you leaving your club side, for example, on Sunday after you play your weekend game, and then maybe you travel the next day, being Monday, and then you get to the camp on Tuesday, and then you have a match on Friday or on Thursday. Just have like 2 or 3 days in between to train, and then you consider the whole process of traveling and packing and all of that. You get tired. You try to resolve accommodation. So you try to factor all of these things, that are involved, and you see that the players sometimes are not even rested well. Most of them are tired. If it's not physical tiredness, it's emotional tiredness, things like that. So Boniface feels like this is actually the reason why they are not getting the best out of him and and his colleagues at the national team. Don't worry, this we have so many players, but sometimes we have limited time to train. It's not like at the club where you work every day. For instance, I could play on Sunday, travel to Nigeria on Monday, and arrive at camp on Tuesday, and then the game is on Friday. With the stress of traveling and little time to train, it's difficult to prepare properly. That is what he said. He continued, we are giving 100%, you all saw the African Cup of Nations, the fight and the efforts were there. People think that because we have good players, it will always be easy, but it's not like that. We don't want to lose either, but we try our best. The most important thing is for the fans to keep believing in us, even when we have a bad game. We always want to make the country proud. So that is, what Victor Boniface has come out to say. Apparently, being very serious this time around because obviously we know him to joke around and try to have some fun, especially on social media. But from what he said now, he's really serious and he's actually saying his mind as to why we are not really performing. But I don't think there's much anyone can do about this because that's just how it is. With the FIFA break, it's like that for all countries. It's not just Nigeria. So there has to be another way to try and work around it and get the results because obviously countries that are getting the results they also have to prepare with this limited amount of time. So we can't use that as an excuse. That is my opinion. But at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. As I said, he's also in line to make the appearance, make the call up. If Coach Eric Shell deems him fit enough. Of course, very good news, very very uh, fantastic news for us as well is that Victor Osimhen came back to the pitch. He actually played, I think, just 3 minutes in their last game against Alanya Sport, on Friday. So he's back on the pitch. So one thing that Share is going to do now is to look for another worthy striker to at least, to pair or support Victor Osimhen. Dula Kodare is one step ahead of all of the other strikers, as at this point. Like after Victor Osimhen, Dula Kodare should come next, and then all of the other guys should like drag for the third slot or something like that in the attacking area. But those are basically what's happening at this point. Thanks for watching the video. Of course, leave your thoughts in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel if you've not done so. And also, please share the video to get across to a lot wider audience, people who might be interested in this kinds of content. Take care of yourselves and stay tuned for more videos.